Hi students, myself Sadesh Kumar Konidala, Assistant Professor, School of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, Guntur. In this video, I would like to discuss about the coagulants. So coagulants are nothing but the drugs which are used to produce the clotting or coagulation of the blood. So coagulation means clotting. So when you observe the situations like accidents or trauma, so in that case, so high amount of blood is lost by the injuries or trauma. So in that situation, for stopping that blood, so we will give some coagulants so that can stop the high amount of blood loss through the injuries. So the learning outcomes of this video includes student could understand the chemistry, metabolic pathways, adverse effects and therapeutic value of the coagulants, and they could know the mechanism of action, structural activity relationship of coagulants. Finally, they could able to know chemical synthesis process or procedures for some of the important coagulants. The contents of this video includes introduction to the coagulation, classification of coagulant, mechanism of action, structural activity relationship, and adverse effects of coagulants. Coagulants are nothing but the agents which are responsible for clotting of the blood. Coagulation is also known as the clotting, and it is a process by which blood changes from liquid to the gel or forming a blood clot, which is generally seen in the hemostasis. Hemostasis is nothing but the process that can regulate the blood fluidity. So the hemostasis is nothing but the process that can regulate the blood fluidity, and arresting the or stopping the blood loss from damaged or injured vessels. So hemostasis is nothing but the process that can regulate the blood fluidity and arresting or stopping the blood loss from the damaged vessels. So when this process is failed, so that means failing of or any disturbances in the hemostasis may lead to formation of the thrombi or uncontrolled blood loss. Uncontrolled blood loss. Understood? So when there is a change or when the hemostasis process is failed, that may lead to formation of the thrombi. Thrombi is nothing but the blood clot. So when the hemostasis is failed, that may lead to the formation of the thrombi or uncontrolled blood loss. Uncontrolled blood loss. So that means hemostasis will stop the blood loss from the damaged vessel, followed by repairing the damaged vessels. Here we can see the mechanism involved in the coagulation. So there are three major steps involved in the mechanism of coagulation. First one is vascular spasm or vascular constriction. Vascular spasm or vascular constriction. Second one is the platelet plug. And third one is a blood clotting or coagulation. Blood clotting or coagulation. And this clotting or coagulation will reinforce the platelet plug. Clotting or coagulation will reinforce the platelet plug with fibrin mesh. So that fibrin mesh will act as the glue to hold the clot together. So the fibrin mesh, which is reinforced on the platelet plug, will act as the glue that can hold the clot together. Here we can see the steps involved in coagulation. So in first step, the platelets. So these are the platelets. These platelets will adhere to the endothelium which is present in the blood vessel wall. And the second stage, the platelets will start the secretion of the fibrin, and then it begins the sealing of endothelium of the blood vessel. And the third stage, the fibrin network will trap the RBCs, thereby it can completely seals the endothelium of the blood vessel. So these are the three stages involved in the coagulation. In first stage, the platelets will bind to the or will attach to the endothelium of the blood vessel wall. In the second stage, the platelets will start the secretion of the fibrin. So around these platelets, the fibrin will be secreted, and that secreted fibrin will starting the sealing of endothelium. So that is a damaged endothelium of the blood vessel. And the third stage, the fibrin network, which is partially sealing the endothelium, will trap the RBCs, so thereby it can completely seal the endothelium in the blood vessels. So this is the process of coagulation to prevent the blood loss when there is a damage to the blood vessels. So the steps involved in the mechanism of coagulation may require different types of clotting factors. So nearly 13 coagulation factors are required. So they are involved in the coagulation process. So here we can see the factor 1 to factor 13. So factor 1 starts from the fibrinogen, and factor 13 is the fibrin stabilizing factor. Here I given the factor number and its name. Factor 1 is the fibrinogen, factor 2 is the prothrombin, factor 3 is the tissue thromboplastin, factor 4 is calcium ions, factor 5 is the labile factor, and there is no factor 6, and factor 7 is stable factor. Factor 8 is the anti-thrombophilic factor. Factor 9 is plasma thromboplastin component, or also called as Christmas factor. And factor 10 is Stark power factor. Factor 11 is plasma thromboplastin antecedent. Factor 12 is Hessman factor. Factor 13 is fibrin stabilizing factor. So these are the factors which are involved in the coagulation process. So that means, so these factors are produced in the liver, and the inactive form of these coagulating factors are called as zymogens. When there is a proteolysis, so these factors are activated. So when there is a proteolysis, then these factors are activated. These factors are activated. So the activation of the one factor will result in the large activation of another factor. So for example, if the factor 1 is activated, and that may lead to activation of second factor, that is a subsequent factor, in larger amounts. That means double amounts of subsequent factor will be activated. Okay, so that means the coagulation process is amplified from one step to the another step. The coagulation cascade process is amplified for each step, and here we can see the coagulation cascade. So this consisting of three pathways. First one is a intrinsic pathway, extrinsic pathway, and common pathway. This one is the intrinsic pathway, and this pathway is the extrinsic pathway, and this pathway is the common pathway for both intrinsic and extrinsic pathway. So when you see in the extrinsic pathway, so it activates within the second after tissue trauma. So when there is a tissue trauma, then within the second the extrinsic pathway will activate it. So that means when there is a trauma, so it will release as the tissue factor. So when this tissue factor is exposed to the factor 7, and that factor 7 will be activating the factor 7A. Factor 7A. And this tissue factor and factor 7A complex will activate the factors like 9 and 10 to the respect to 9A and 10A. Understood? So the complex of tissue factor and 7A will activate the factor 9 to 9A and 10 to 10A respectively. So when the 7A is activated, it forms the complex with tissue factor. So there is a complex of tissue factor and 7A will form. So after that, in presence of calcium ions, the tissue factor and 7A complex will activate the factors like 10 to 10A. So that means this tissue factor and 7A complex in presence of calcium ions, it will activate the factor 10 to 10A. Similarly, it can also activate the factors like 9 to 9A. Okay, so it will activate the both 9 and 10 factor to the respect to 9A and 10A factors. In case of intrinsic pathway, so that is in case of blood trauma. So when there is a blood trauma, so that is in case of blood trauma. So when there is a blood trauma, then the factor 13 is activated. So that means when it is exposed to the negative surfaces like glass, in that case the factor 13 is activated, and this activated factor 13 will activate the, and when seen the intrinsic pathway, it is a slow pathway, so it is activated by the, when there is a blood trauma, then it will activate the factor 12. So when that factor 12 is exposed to the negatively charged surface like glass, then it will activate the factor 12A. Then it will activate the factor 12A. And this factor 12A will activate the factor 11 to factor 11A. Then this activated factor 11A will activate the factor 9 to 9A. And this 9A factor in presence of or by utilization of the calcium ions will activate the factor 10 to 10A. So the ultimate end of these two intrinsic and extrinsic pathway are nothing but activation of the factor 10 to 10A. Okay, so this is the convergence of intrinsic and extrinsic pathways. So that means they are come to the same pathway, that is a common pathway. And after activation of the factor 10 to 10A, so by utilization of calcium ions, phospholipids, and activation of 5A will convert the prothrombin to thrombin, factor 2 to factor 2A. So conversion of the prothrombin to thrombin is nothing but the conversion of factor 2 to 2A. And this activated thrombin by utilization of the calcium will convert or will activate the plasminogen to plasmin. So the activated thrombin by the utilization of the calcium ions will activate the factor 13 to factor 13A. So that is nothing but fibrinogen to fibrin. Fibrinogen to fibrin. That is nothing but the factor 13 to factor 13A. And this activated fibrin by the utilization of calcium ions will form the stabilized fibrin. So that is nothing but the clot. So this is the sequence of events which are involved in the coagulation cascade. And there are some coagulation cascade inhibitors are available that can able to control the coagulation process. So that are nothing but antithrombin, three, and protein C and S. So these agents can inhibit the some of the factors like 5A and 8A. So thereby they can regulate the coagulation cascades. And another type of coagulation cascade inhibitor is nothing but heparin sulfate. So which will increases the activity of antithrombin 3, thereby it controls the coagulation cascade. And coming to the defects in hemostasis, so there are two types, primary hemostasis and secondary hemostasis. So the defects in hemostasis are classified into two types, primary hemostasis and secondary hemostasis. Primary hemostasis includes defective formation of platelet plug. So that is nothing but the disorders of platelet function. Formation of a defect in the function of the platelet. Primary hemostasis includes platelet function defects and Van Willebrand disease. And secondary hemostasis includes hemophilia A and B. And other type of defects in hemostasis are nothing but formation of the thrombus. So these thrombus are of different types. So commonly seen thrombus are arterial thrombus and venous thrombus. That means the thrombi which is found in the arteries are called as the arterial thrombi, and the thrombi which is found in the veins are called as the venous thrombi. And coming to the example of coagulant, that is a vitamin K. So vitamin K is the coagulant, and these are available in both natural and synthetic form. Okay, so vitamin K are available in different forms like vitamin K1, K2, K3 and K4. And generally the source of the vitamin K1, that is nothing but the phylloquinone. It is also called as phylloquinone, rich in leafy vegetables, which is rich in leafy vegetables like spinach, cauliflower. Example for coagulants are vitamin K and its derivatives. So this vitamin K, the K is denoted from the German word coagulation, that means clotting of blood, and it is available from the natural and synthetic origin. So there are different types of vitamin K derivatives like K1, K2, K3 and K4. So in that, K1 is available from the natural source like plants. So that means it is rich in leafy vegetables like spinach, cabbage and parsley. And K3 is the synthetic derivative. It is of two types, fat soluble and water soluble. And example for the fat soluble K3 derivatives are menadione and acetomenophtone. And water soluble derivatives are menadione sodium bisulfate and menadione sodium diphosphate. And example for the miscellaneous type of coagulants are fibrinogen, so that is a human fibrinogen, anti-hemophilic factor, desmopressin, adenochrome monosemicarbazole, rutin and ethamsulate. And when seen the vitamin K derivatives, they are nothing but the naphthquinone derivatives. Naphthquinone derivatives. When seen the structure of vitamin K1, it consisting of a naphthquinone moiety, and at the third position of ring A, there is a aliphatic side chain is present. This is the chemical structure of K1, that is nothing but phylloquinone. And here example for vitamin K3 is nothing but menadione. So it is nothing but a methyl naphthquinone. The chemical name of this menadione, that is a vitamin K3, is nothing but 2-methyl naphthalene 1,4 dione. So 2-methyl naphthalene 1,4 dione. And when seen the mechanism of action in case of menadione, so this menadione will acting as the cofactor for the synthesis of factors like 2, 7, 9 and 10. So that means, so this menadione is useful for producing the synthesis of factors, clotting factors like 2, 7, 9 and 10. So thereby it can promote the clotting cascade, and it can enable the clotting factors to bind with the calcium ions to the phospholipid surfaces. So this step is essential for coagulation cascade. So that means this menadione is required for the binding of calcium ions to the clotting factors, that is nothing but the gamma carboxylation process, and that one is essential for the coagulation cascade. And the pharmaceutical uses of this menadione are nothing but, so it will be used in the blood clotting process and also plays a key role in normal bone calcification process. So it is also play a key role in normal bone calcification process, that means the bone development process.